But Daniel, stay on this. Tell me why Tatiana Suarez, who has a world title, the highest ranking wrestler, couldn't take down a girl that's never had a wrestling match. Whaley's never even had a match.
You know, guys, after the last couple of UFC fight nights and pay-per-views and just performances overall, I'm starting to think American wrestling is a bit fraudulent, guys. Now, I'm actually going to go through multiple fighters, multiple examples, multiple American wrestlers, and I'm going to prove to you why I'm starting to think American wrestling is kind of shit now. We'll start with Aljamain Sterling. Now, he fought Movsar Evloev last year, and it wasn't one of those fights where it was just like, oh, he got destroyed by the Dagestani wrestler. But I thought Aljamain Sterling lost that fight. It was a split decision, but I thought he lost that fight. And it was one of those fights where it really was kind of Dagestani wrestling versus American wrestling. And Dagestani wrestling beat American wrestling. Now, again, it was a great performance by Aljamain Sterling. It was a great fight, especially at this stage of his career, for him to still be hanging with those younger fighters. But he didn't really do enough to win. And for a guy that was at a pretty good level in the amateurs, and I think he had like a record of like 24 wins, Aljamain Sterling, before the UFC. I'm talking about like in amateur wrestling, that is. For a guy that was pretty good in amateur wrestling, you should be kind of running through these guys, you know, but for him to kind of go out there and lose this close decision to Movsar Evloev, and yeah, he still hung in there, but this isn't one of the worst examples. The next example is a lot more of a clear example of why I think American wrestling is not working, and that is Tatiana Suarez. Now, she lost to Zhang Weili earlier this year. I knew she was going to lose. First of all, I just want to say, I picked Tatiana Suarez to lose, but seriously though, Tatiana Suarez, she lost to Zhang Weili. Zhang Weili doesn't have a freaking wrestling background. Tatiana Suarez has an Olympic-level wrestling background. I don't believe she actually ended up competing at the Olympics, but she was Olympic level. Like, she was the cream of the crop in terms of amateur wrestlers for the women, or just in general, I guess. Even though, you know, women's wrestlers ain't the same level as male wrestlers, women's fighters ain't the same level as male fighters. You know what I freaking mean. She was at a high level. She was Olympic level. She gets to Zhang Weili, somebody who probably has not been doing wrestling like at all. Zhang Weili probably doesn't even have a wrestling base. For a fact, I know she does not have a wrestling background. She has MMA wrestling. She's really good at MMA wrestling, and she's developed her wrestling as her UFC career has gone on. How is Zhang Weili beating you then? Again, you've been doing amateur wrestling since you were younger. You've got that Olympic level. You're losing to Zhang Weili, somebody who's been doing wrestling, for a couple of years now, but she's been mixing it in with her striking, and she's mixing it in with her MMA training, and you know, it's not like she dedicated her entire freaking youth like Tatiana Suarez did to becoming an elite level wrestler and then getting to the Olympic level. So for Zhang Weili to just be so dominant on the ground, and Tatiana, she beat everybody before Zhang Weili, but Zhang Weili is Zhang Weili, right? And you know, again, I didn't think Tatiana had a chance against Zhang Weili. I thought Zhang Weili was going to destroy Tatiana Suarez. Let's just put it like that. But still, she should have done better than that. She was the one getting taken down. She was the one getting reversed and thrown down and just bullied practically on the ground. Henry Cejudo, another example. A guy who, since he's come back, is just not really... I mean, lost to Aljamain, who again is another American wrestler, but, you know, they can kind of cancel each other out. Lost to Song Yadong recently. Merab. I mean, we can talk about the Merab fight. Like, obviously that was so long ago. But Merab. You face Merab Dvalishvili, right? A guy who, you know, Georgian wrestler, whatever the case may be. You were an Olympic level wrestler. He was an Olympic level wrestler. An Olympic gold medalist, Henry Cejudo was. Dude won at the Olympics. Do you guys understand how insane this is? This guy was an Olympic level wrestler. He goes into MMA. You know, he shows his wrestling credentials pretty well. You know, he dominated some guys on the ground, but you know, I think Cejudo did kind of fall in love with his striking a little bit. But against Merab, he's getting slammed. He's getting carried across the octagon and getting slammed. Merab's aura farming on him. He doesn't get a takedown on Merab at all. Merab just easily kind of just carries him around like a baby and just dominates him. Gets takedowns whenever he wants. You're an Olympic level wrestler. how are you losing to guys who are not Olympic level wrestlers? Even if Merab, let's say, is some Georgian marauder, it's Georgia. What's their highest level of wrestling? Merab never went to the Olympics compared to Cejudo, who won a gold fucking medal. Like, do you guys understand why this is kind of a bad look for American wrestling? On top of that, you're an American level wrestler. You couldn't take down Song Yadong in his last fight. I don't know if you guys saw that. Could not take down Song Yadong at all. Was just getting easily out muscled. Like, what is this? It just, you can't. This is not the 1970s, brother, where you can just, oh, I know how to shoot a double leg, brother, so I can easily get takedowns. You like. To a smaller example, Justin Gaethje, got taken down by Rafael Fiziev. Fiziev has no wrestling base. Fiziev's base is like Muay Thai. Got taken down and held down by Fiziev pretty easily in that first round in their last fight. And yeah, that's Gaethje, though. He doesn't even like to wrestle, but he has a good wrestling background. Everyone talks about, oh, people forget, man, Gaethje used to do wrestling in college for like a year or something. Nobody gives a fuck. What about Sean Brady? Sean Brady absolutely dominated Leon Edwards. Sean Brady does not have a wrestling background, but he has a jiu-jitsu background. Do you know who has a wrestling background and didn't do that to Leon Edwards? Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman, American wrestling background. For 3 fights, he fought Leon Edwards 3 times, and he could not do that to Leon Edwards at all, the way that Sean Brady did it. And Sean Brady has a jiu-jitsu background. Not an amateur wrestling background. No wrestling background at all, which I was so shocked when I read that. Like, what? Sean Brady doesn't have a wrestling background? No. His background is jiu-jitsu. And he's become this, like, marauder of a freaking... He just subbed Gilbert Burns as well not that long ago. He just subbed Kelvin Gastelum in his last fight. Like, how is this possible where... Again, Kamaru Usman has never done that to like a high-level guy the way Sean Brady just did. Now you could say, maybe Leon got worse since the Usman fights. I don't think that's the case. I just think, maybe Leon Edwards, he regressed or something. No, he's fucking 30 years old. He's not 49. Like, it's just the fact that Sean Brady is just, I don't know. I mean, he has no American wrestling background. He has a jiu-jitsu background, and he did that to Leon Edwards. Kamaru Usman couldn't do that. Colby Covington couldn't do that. I want to talk about a guy like Torres Finney. Torres Finney just awful in his last fight. Even when he got a takedown, he couldn't hold the guy down. Couldn't even complete most of his takedowns. Did a lot of stalling. Did a lot of cage holding. It's like he has a good wrestling background as well. He also has like a football background, I think, but who cares? How the fuck are you can't even complete a takedown? I know he did complete a takedown in that fight. He completed a couple of takedowns, but then there were times where he was really struggling to get any sort of like movement going. Any sort of just stalling, holding against the cage. You have a good wrestling background. And you're a pretty strong guy as well. And I know Robert Valentin is not some shitter, but you have a good wrestling background. You couldn't take this guy down more times than you did. Let alone, even when you took him down, you didn't dominate him at all. This one kind of pains me, but Bryce Mitchell gets subbed by Gene Silva. Bryce Mitchell has a really good wrestling background. He's been a wrestler for his entire UFC career. And he's dominated guys on the ground. He's taken down names like Ilia Topuria, and he's subbed some good names. I forget who he got that twister submission on, but he's good. Bryce Mitchell is very, very good, but like, how do you get just shucked off by Gene Silva, a guy who does not have a wrestling background at all? He might have a jiu-jitsu background, but not a wrestling background whatsoever. You get shucked off by Gene Silva, and you just get subbed. You get subbed. He had a good sub attempt in the first round, and then you get subbed in the second. Just easily, just like that. What the fuck? Like, you're this high-level American wrestler, and you get subbed to some freaking Brazilian, who's like a striker, by the way. He's not like... It's not like you got subbed by Charles Oliveira. You got subbed by a guy who is a predominant striker and has only really shown his striking throughout his entire career. And now all of a sudden he can grapple. But obviously he's been training his grappling. But that should still not be enough to dominate Bryce Mitchell the way he did. On that same card, you had a guy like Michael Chandler. Again, dude gets dominated by Paddy Pimblett. Absolutely dominated. Just bullied on the ground. yeah, he showed that he has decent, like, submission defense. He can't get subbed, I guess. Good for him. Dude got easily taken down, easily dominated, lost a lot of good positions to Paddy. Paddy just easily got the back, just easily got mount, just all these really good positions on the ground. And, you know, maybe that's more jiu-jitsu, but obviously you have a wrestling background as well. You shouldn't even have been taken down, Michael Chandler. You have a great amazing American wrestling background, yet Paddy Pimblett absolutely dominates you, and he comes from freaking, where the fuck, I don't know, Brixton or fucking, what's it, like a UK? He's a Scouser, so I don't know where they're from, but he has a Scouser background, and he's dominating you in the grappling department. And then finally, the absolute bum that inspired me to make this video, Bo Nickal, whatever you want to call him, Bum Nickal, Bot Nickal. There's so many different nicknames for this poor guy. I almost feel bad for him, I'm not going to lie. Bo Nickal, man. This guy, high-level American wrestler, high level, like, competed at the highest level. I mean, I don't think he, like, made Olympic level like Cejudo, but very high level, you know. Was like one of the people were saying he's one of the best of all time, one of the best we've ever seen, right? The guy goes in there, and yeah, his first couple of fights were impressive, but as his competition got better and better, you saw, like, oh, this guy might not be good. Like, he might not be that good, you know? And freaking couldn't really dominate Cody Brundage. Yeah, he subbed him eventually, but couldn't really dominate him. There's even a moment, which I forgot that this happened, but I saw this clip on Twitter, where Brundage just shucks him off so easily, you know? And then too scared to grapple with Paul Craig. And then Reinier de Ridder dominates you. And I did pick Reinier de Ridder to win. I just gotta say that. Guys. But Reinier de Ridder absolutely dominates you. You had no strength for this guy at all. And on top of that, and I know, you know, size and strength could also play a factor, but that really shouldn't matter if you have such good technique like Bo Nickal. Realistically, you would think he has the best technique of anyone at middleweight, but I guess not, because couldn't really take down Reinier de Ridder. When he did, Reinier de Ridder did a good job of reversing or getting back up, you know, and then he himself easily got taken down. How? How is that possible? How? Like, these guys, a lot of these guys on this list, very good, very high-level wrestlers, but it's like, are they high-level? Like, or maybe it's just a case of, what I think it is, to be honest with you, like, to answer the question of, is American wrestling the worst base for MMA? Is American wrestling shit? Is American wrestling pointless? I don't think it's pointless. A little bit. I don't think it's pointless, but I think, and a lot of these guys on this list, I just think a lot of these guys don't mix in the martial arts as much as they could have or should have. Now, it's too late for a lot of these guys like Aljamain Sterling or Triple C, and Triple C does have some, like, TKOs. I think he has a couple of KOs or TKOs, and he was actually pretty decent on the feet. Well, he still is. He's still active, but, you know, he's washed. But anyways, these guys, the problem is, they went into the UFC. Oh, I'm this really high level wrestler, so that's gonna get me far enough, and it did get them. You know, it got them past a couple of unranked bums, right? Like for Bo Nickal, it's like the Cody Brundages and the Val Woodburns. Yeah, he beat some of those guys, but it's not enough. Being a really great wrestler is just not enough. You need to be a great striker as well. You just have to be. It's just, there's no other way of putting it. Unless you have obscene cardio like Marab, and you have a really good chin like a Marab. Or some of these Dagestanis aren't the best strikers, but again, they have great cardio, their chins are good, and they also have really good ground games. They're good defensively. You just have to be all around good. And these American wrestlers like Bo Nickal, you having that American base is good and all, but you just need to mix it in with the striking. And you could train striking as much as you want, Bo Nickal, or even an Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling striking is kind of awful. And it's awful because, yeah, his wrestling got him far. It got him to the championship level, for sure. But, I mean, if you really want to look through Aljamain's career, I mean, it's kind of like he was losing a freaking Peter Yan, right? Let's just be honest. I actually like Aljamain Sterling, so I'm allowed to criticize him because I'm a fan, right? But in all seriousness, dude kind of gets gifted a title off of Peter Yan. Before that, he was losing to Peter Yan, right? He was getting dominated on the feet, destroyed on the feet, right? Then he faces Peter Yan in a rematch, razor close fight. He wins, right? Then he faces like TJ Dillashaw one arm. That doesn't count. That doesn't freaking count. And then he faces like some Henry Cejudo he faces, and that was just like two American wrestlers being shit. And then that was also like a really close fight. And then he gets KO'd by Sean O'Malley. I'm just saying, guys. He gets KO'd by Sean O'Malley. He beats Calvin Kattar. Whoa, my grandma could beat Calvin Kattar in 2025. He beats Calvin Kattar. No, I'm kidding. I love Calvin Kattar. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to slander him like that. But he beats Calvin Kattar, and then now he just loses to Movsar Evloev. And he loses to Movsar Evloev because Evloev has that Dagestani base. And as much as this might pain me to say that the Dagestani wrestling base is a lot better than the American wrestling base. Hell, the Georgian wrestling base is better than the American wrestling base, the way it seems. It's just the American wrestling base is not good enough. Now, I am recording this after UFC 315, where JDM absolutely put the beats on Bilal Muhammad. And the thing is, Bilal Muhammad has an American wrestling background. He did a little bit of American wrestling in college, I want to say, in Chicago, obviously, where he's from. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to add him in here at the end. He does also have a wrestling background. Not like nothing crazy, not Olympic level. He wasn't like an NCAA champion or anything, but he does have a wrestling background, an American wrestling background. And he got mocked by an Australian Chad whose only background is training with Craig Jones. That's his grappling background. Again, another example of a guy who has American wrestling and gets mocked by a guy who doesn't. But look, if you're an American wrestler, like, you can make it into UFC. It's not impossible, but you really, really need to really refine your striking. Honestly, if you're an American wrestler, don't even train grappling because you got that part down already. Just train striking every freaking day. Just train jiu-jitsu every freaking day. It's just an awful look. Again, Henry Cejudo. Yeah, he made it to the championship level. He's a legend. I like Henry Cejudo. But I'm just saying, for some reason, nowadays, Henry Cejudo, it's like he left, and then for like those 3 years he was gone, it's like everyone just became good at wrestling. Because then when he came back, can't beat a guy like Song Yadong, can't beat a guy like Marab, can't beat any of these names that maybe he would have done a lot better against a couple years ago. But the sport has evolved very quickly, and it's evolved to the point where everyone can kind of stuff a takedown. Everyone can grapple, in some way. Alex Pereira, look what he was stuffing all those takedowns against Magomed Ankalaev, bro. Like, it's not as hard as it once was to be good at wrestling. It's just not. It's not that hard to be a good wrestler. It's not that hard to shoot a double leg anymore, or to stuff a takedown, stuff a single leg. It's just not. It's just not anymore. And this is not freaking UFC 3 or UFC 100, where you can just be like some guy, whoop-de-doo, I'm coming from freaking amateur wrestling and I'm going to double leg somebody, and it just doesn't work. So that's about it, guys. Do you think American wrestling is the worst base for MMA? It's a bit exaggeratory, but I think it kind of is. I think having a boxing base, a kickboxing base, a Muay Thai base, a jiu-jitsu base is a better base for MMA than, or even a Sambo base. I think all those are better bases for MMA than, I know how to shoot a double leg, bro. Like, the wrestling fans are going to get pissed with this one, but I like wrestling. I like amateur wrestling, and it's cool and all, but it's just not enough. So make sure you guys like and sub, become a member in the description, and fuck John Jones.